Plat Chat, episode 171. We did it, folks. We're here. It's the Overwatch League 2023.
Yeah,
we did it.
I'm calling it.
Started like last week. What
yeah.
Are you saying?
Well,
we're
in it now. We're in the mix, Jaws.
Okay,
we've
sure.
started it.
Jaws,
we're live.
Starting
We're
this
online,
episode
okay?
negative again. Hey, come on, Jaws.
What
are we
What
doing?
did I do last week? What the fuck?
You know,
like
last week we were like, you know, like a rocket, like a space rocket, and we're like, okay, does the thrusters work? Or are we actually like going to get going? And now, like, we're underway, like we're going, Jaws.
True. Yeah, that's crazy actually.
So we're online.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's good. That's good. Good start to the episode, everybody. Good job.
All right. Well,
good, Johnny.
Yeah. That was so hype.
Okay, first of all, Johnny, no, before we get started, we need to get it out of the way. Lemonkiwi. Who do you think is a better actor, Dave Bautista or The Rock?
All right.
Kind of cool.
Yeah,
Who's the better actor? Who's the better actor? You got to pick. You have to pick.
Well, I know The Rock sucks, and what's Bautista?
The Rock sucks?
Dave Bautista, he's like the big guy from like Knives Out, Glass Onion, and like... Yo, there's no threads about it. Look at this, what we've been
Wait,
on.
there's an article.
Get that shit off my screen.
Well, Dave looks
Bautista is
funnier. I think Dave wins. David.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We're getting a consensus from everybody saying that Dave Bautista might be a better actor.
Scorpion King.
Yeah, that's old school. That was a good movie.
Unbelievably good film. Hit his peak, honestly, in Scorpion King.
I'm kind of tired of The Rock.
Yeah,
kind of wish
he's been doing
retire.
it for so long. This is what I said. The Rock walked so Dave Bautista could run. You know,
I disagree with you so much there.
No,
dude,
Johnny,
you're saying you're tired of The Rock?
not listening.
Dude, if I ran into like The Rock at like my local coffee shop or something, I'd just like be starstruck out of control. I'd be like, holy shit, it's The Rock. I'd be like, Golden Boy, it was justified. Like yeah.
But it's not about who's had a better career so far. Of course, it's going to be The Rock. He's been doing it for longer. But it's like, who's a better actor?
Currently, The Rock. I will give it to you that
You're
Dave
still
Bautista.
going to give it to The Rock?
I will give it to you, Dave Bautista. You know, give him another Guardians of the Galaxy. When is number 3 coming out? It's soon, right? Maybe next year. Guardians of the Galaxy. Dude.
Didn't the Ant-Man come out?
He's great in the Christmas special for Guardians of the Galaxy.
Christmas special is pretty good.
It was a Christmas special? I missed
it.
It
was. It was pretty decent. Last year? Or like year before, sorry, not 2022 Christmas, 2021 Christmas, I think. I'm
out of the loop. I gotta go back and take notes on its performance. Anyway, yeah, happy to have you on, Jen. We're recording this a bit in advance, so happy to have you here. This is Monday, by the way. So for people always ask, like, are you live or not? I'll activate this, pre-recorded. Okay, it's not 12th of December, but it's March or something.
It's almost 12th of December.
Yeah, so we're pre-recording this episode because I'm going out of town for a couple of days. But yeah, glad to have you on, Jen. How do you enjoy the first week of the Pro-Am?
It was cool. It was crazy. I think we're in a good meta right now. I'm excited to talk about today. And it was nice to see Owl versus Contenders. I feel like we've been begging for this for a long time, and it feels like there was so much pushback, and now it's happened without people really asking for it, and it was really a good treat.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Jaws, Custa. I'm starting off here. First impressions from the first week of the Pro-Am. Like, how did you enjoy the tournament? Just like, you know, surface level stuff. Like, did you enjoy the weekend? How was it? How did you enjoy it?
But for me, I think it really started to highlight like how close our teams are to the Contenders teams, but also how far away they are, if that makes sense.
Two opposite.
You know, they're both, because we got to see on a bad day for any our team, you know, the Contenders teams are good enough to be able to take advantage of that, go to the next level. But we also saw, especially as the weekend went on, the teams got more matches, like the Florida Mayhem, like, bopped Trick Room. Like, that was a spawn camp, and that's the team that also beat the Shock, right? So I think you started to get a gauge for like how good these players are in respect of they can definitely compete, but I think when everyone's working well, when you got the highest level teams working well as a unit, it's very difficult for them to be able to match up against.
Yeah, it's been pretty good. There have been some abhorrent Overwatch played, but on the flip side of things,
negative.
On the flip side of things, there has been some fantastic Overwatch played. Atlanta Reign 2, my God, they look good. Like, unbelievable gameplay. And it has been nice, I guess, to see Tier 2 face Tier 1, because that has always been a conversation of, oh, how good are the bottom Overwatch League teams versus the top, the top of tier 2 versus the bottom of Overwatch League. So that's been exciting. But on the flip side of things, on the other flip side of things, there's three sides to this shape. I would love to see an APAC kind of pro-am too, by the way, because my God, like teams like O2.
Boy, do I have news for you, Jaws.
Oh my God. Oh, you have news for me?
I do.
Oh my God, this is going to be Pog. But like, seriously, all mixed into one is what I kind of mean. In like, if APAC was also competing in NA, plus the NA contended, like all the regions in one giant pro-am, I think that'd be fucking wicked. But it's been pretty decent. I think we're already seeing the power level of some of these Overwatch League teams, which has been cool. Plus some like hidden talents from Contenders that are probably going to get brought up in the next year or so. I'd say we'll see that.
Yeah. Also, I had to like remind myself that we're seeing some of the best Contenders teams play the Overwatch League teams. But we're also at the start of an Overwatch League season, so realistically, like most of like the best Contenders talent have already been picked up to the Overwatch League, and so these are like the best of the rest, if that makes sense, when it comes to the tier 2 talent. So, you know, that considered, what we saw from Saints, for example, they won 2 matches, they almost made it out of the group. That match against Spitfire, we'll cover that a bit later. That was really intense. It was really fun. I do want to cover this before we get a bit too into the matches and stuff, because people lost their mind this all weekend about it. I don't know if you saw it. I was watch partying, so I had my own YouTube chat, and people came into my chat and like talking to me all the time. We were on YouTube. We were not on Twitch. No one really knows why. We also had some issues where the quality was way better on Contenders, because the Contender stream doesn't have this like ad program that the Overwatch League has on their main channel. So it was a little bit rough around the edges. We had no drops. I don't even think we had any token drops. So these were...
They were dropping codes in the chat.
Dropping codes. Yeah, they're dropping codes. Yeah. So, you know, I don't want to just like have that go unnoticed, because it was a big talking point, especially among like the chat and the viewers at home. Something they had big complaints about. I will say that it wasn't the best weekend to just like kick things off when it came to like the quality and stuff. But I want to remind people as well that last year, even, I don't know if you remember, we had the homestand with Houston and Dallas, I think, on day 1. Or was that 2021? And like even that day, like it was the first day. It's a new production partner. Things are a bit, you know, scrappy, but then it improved. It improved quite fast, actually, like over time. And so, you know, I'm treating the Pro-Am as a bit of a preseason event here, where like we haven't even got the season started. So hopefully it's again like a new production partner this year, and maybe they can smoothen some of those things out, and then we'll see about, you know, quality and drops and everything. But I'd like to be optimistic about it and be like, well, you know, it's up from here, in my opinion, where I think that they'll make improvements over time, and we'll see what happens next week. But I'm optimistic, and I enjoyed this past week. So unless anyone else has anything to say to that, we'll get into the matches and the groups.
An esports production company running an esport, Pog. That is my addition to that. That is it's sick news, honestly. Yeah, I think it's always going to be rough around the edges, because they just, hey, by the way, you're doing this league. Obviously, you've never done this league before, and this is how we've run it, and this is how like you want to run it. So yeah, it's going to be rough. But esports company running an esports event, very epic, I'd say. I'm super excited.
Well, yeah, and I do want to give a shout out, to the new production quality, because as much as, Lemon was there, it was a rough first day, especially on our end of like, it's just a learning experience for them. They really came in and they wanted to change how things have been done instead of just sticking with the same formula that worked in the past. But it definitely created a little bit of pain points. But as you said, Johnny, it improved very quickly. They're very open to our feedback, and we're hoping to get hopefully by the time we have these few weeks to iron things out when the actual season starts, as George said, that hopefully everything should be smoothly running and they can fix the quality and all that kind of stuff that's been plaguing the Overwatch League for a while.
Yeah. And I can't imagine that we'll eventually get an answer, especially when the regular season comes around, like YouTube versus Twitch and what's going on. There'll be some, I don't know, freaking Jacob Wolf report or something. It's exclusive deal. There'll be something out there. Someone will say something and we'll know what the situation is, right? That's usually, just speaking historically, that's usually how it happens, right? So if you're clueless in chat, mod check what's going on, well, I think we'll learn with time. So
because then they post Twitch links for the Pro-Am a couple days before.
On the Contenders website, they said it was going to be on Twitch. But that could have just been a mistake. But I don't know if they ever announced. You might be right, though. It was. Everyone thought
and
it was
like on
Twitch.
YouTube. Yeah, It was, I thought it was going to be Twitch too, because off of that announcement, then it was like YouTube. So
yeah,
not sure.
Yeah.
Somebody leaked something.
Yeah,
Someone. That's it. Costa.
Okay, well, let me get my emails real quick.
All right. So yeah, we'll see what happens week 2 and week 3. I mean, it's a pro, and it's the first week of the year, so we'll see what happens. But kicking things off with the matches themselves. I mean, the first day. Let's just get straight into it. I was going to cover some of our favorite players and stuff, but I don't think you can start talking about the Pro-Am if you don't start at like the actual beginning, day 1, and the upset that was Trick Room over San Francisco Shock, and also Shock losing to the Mayhem. I believe the first match was Mayhem Shock, right? And then the third match.
Yeah.
Okay, I got that right. And it was just like a bit of a like sucker punch in the face, where it's like, holy shit, like we've arrived. It's Trick Room beating the San Francisco Shock. I'll give credit to Custa. Custa was like, oh, Trick Room, there's something about these guys last week on the podcast as well. What stood out to you, Custa? You were on the desk and you were breaking down the match as well. Well, Trick Room versus Shock, what are your big takeaways?
For me, it was just like Trick Room played really well. I think that was one of those moments where the players really showed that they can go toe to toe with these guys when they're in the right situation. Like all the individual players like had a great series. They were playing a consistent dive, and the Shock just. Let me talk about the negatives of Shock. Shock genuinely look like they haven't scrimmed like much at all. I don't know if there's truth to that or where the issues lie, but their hero choices seem very like strange compared to what we saw from everybody else. They kept going back into spawn to switch things as if they weren't expecting or understanding what they were about to play up against. And then even when they did play things, they were heavily struggling. They only really started to get better later in the tournament, as I jump forward a little bit, but later in the tournament when they just put Proper on Tracer, which was like, okay, good luck. And it worked way better when they started doing that. But props to Trick Room. I don't think there's any like, oh my God, the Shock are just throwing. There's all that troll. Like credit to those guys. They absolutely deserve that win.
Yeah.
I mean, they were playing on 180 ping.
Were they though?
From Korea.
Albert cleared that up though. Did they?
180 ping, but the other team was equalized or attempted to be equalized at 90, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay. So one was 90, one was 80. I don't know.
They
the
weren't
answer,
forcing the other team to 180. I know.
Yes, they're not. Yeah, God,
yeah,
can you imagine that game? That would be just the worst. But yeah, the 180 ping problem. Come on, like 180 ping is ridiculous. You can play Overwatch on 90, I think, but like anything more than that, I did the trials on 180, couldn't play the game. It was fucking terrible. I wasn't gonna make it through anyway, but Jesus Christ, it was bad. And you're having to react like unbelievably further in advance, to like abilities or like simple fucking cooldowns like sleep, nade, and shit like that. Like Tracer is definitely one of the better heroes on that ping because you're just up close anyway, so not the worst, but you're definitely going to miss some fucking recalls, some blinks and shit like that. But I don't think on top of your point, Scott, of maybe them not looking like they've been scrimming, like I still think the ping is a massive factor. Maybe that's giga cope, but
so much copium coming out right
150
now.
to 200. It's like
I'm talking on Reddit.
It's a fucking joke, bro.
Yeah.
It is.
I'm agreeing with Custa that Shock look really. I mean, all of their losses came from like that day 1, and I casted those matches, and I was feeling lost just looking at the Shock. It was a lot of standing around, not a lot of proactivity from what we're used to. I especially remember like the Kings Row map between Shock and Florida, where Shock were just standing around on attack, not knowing how and when to dive. And then they're swapping Max and Junbin out, still trying to figure out who should be playing Winston when it felt very obvious to us who should. And like after that day break that they had, because they didn't play till day 3, like everything was fine, or at least not a giant disaster. And we all kind of knew they were going to play slow or like start slow. But I honestly kind of agree with Custa that Trick Room just played really well on that day, and that's why they deserved the win. And then who honestly had Vindime Ajaxing on their bingo card? Like it was just such a freaking stupid day for Shock. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. It truly was, I mean, the best possible start to the Pro-Am when you have both tweeting out
yeah, both the GOAT, bro.
After, dude, both the GOAT, just to like kickstart the memes of the 2023 season, it was just great. I mean, who wasn't like a boat fan after this series? And there were many more names that came around as well that we got to know this past week. So it was just amazing. I do want to go back to some of the scrims that you mentioned, Custa, that I noticed some pretty big shift as well in their roles and how they actually played towards the end of the week. The biggest takeaway, of course, like you said, they put Proper on the Tracer instead, whereas on day one, Proper played Tracer when they were in Sombra Tracer compositions, and Hisang was playing the Sombra. But for the most part on day one, Proper was playing the Cassidy, he was playing the Hanzo in some of these compositions, and the last few series, especially against Vancouver, it was Hisang who was playing the Hanzo and King's Row and stuff like that. So they're obviously like making changes like mid-tournament, and that is like one of the biggest hints that this is a team that does not have it like all figured out. Like they're obviously going through some stuff if you just swap around your damage player roles. The other thing that you mentioned, Jen, that is very interesting as well is the Max and Junbin part of this whole equation. I honestly don't really know what to make of it. We saw Junbin play some Winston on King's Row versus Vancouver, but also he played some D.Va on King's Row, which you'd expect Max to play like he did earlier in the tournament. Custa, did you get a read on this Max Junbin situation? What do you think?
Even when they were playing the right players, like I don't really understand like the setup. Like obviously Max is the Ramatra guy. They don't want to play Reinhardt, which is I think a discussion we'll have later in this episode of the Ramatra versus Reinhardt stuff. But so Max is coming in to do that. But then even when Junbin came in, he wanted to play like Doomfist and D.Va a lot more than I would expect from someone who we expect to be a great Winston and Wrecking Ball player. So and then what was it? What series did they only play Max? Was that the second series?
Remember him coming in on like a Esperanza or something?
I think. No, because he in the third map he played the Winston against Trick Room, and I remember watching it. I'm like, why? Why would Max ever be in here to play Winston? That doesn't make sense. Esperanza is pretty much one of the most important Winston maps just because of the verticality of it while also needing to do those dives. Or just play Wrecking Ball. Honestly, if I'd just seen Junbin beep around on the ball, I would have been fine as well. But I was just a lot of questions with not a lot of answers, because even when they did start winning later towards the tournament, it didn't feel like we were getting... it didn't feel like they were playing dramatically better as a team. It just felt like they were playing better individually more than anything and having Proper on Tracer.
Yeah, I really like the compositions they came out with on this King's Row maps against Timeless. It was literally the last match they played, or map they played all week. But I'll fast forward a bit to their defense, which, I know, Custa, you're a fan of this comp as well, so I get back to you in a second. But on defense, hello, Door. When they played this D.Va, Kiriko, Ana composition. And it was a composition that I first saw Seoul Dynasty play in their league scrims against Hangzhou Spark. And I was I almost fell in love with it. I was like, this is a great composition. I really like this coming out from them. So Junbin is playing Winston now, but then later on he swaps over to D.Va. Do you think that could be a consistent look for the rest of the tournament? Do you think it could be meta? I'm asking you, Scott, because I know you have Kiriko, Ana thoughts, but...
Yeah, so I actually, I'm just going to peek open the curtain. I actually watched Florida Scrim a couple of weeks ago, prior to the Pro-Am, and they were playing a lot of Kiriko Ana, and I was I was watching, because RuPaul's just playing like a psycho when he plays that, and he's kind of a part of the dive as the Kiriko, and what that does is it provides so much space that it leaves the Ana to just sit up in this window and just have infinite space to just constantly heal from a distance. You get the Nano Boost, you get the Kitsune Rush, you still retain the Suzu, and it just makes a lot of sense. And this is, the Shocker playing it here, but it really is the Florida Mayhem's comp that they've started popularizing with Churong on that Ana, and I think it just enables your Winston so much and is one of the reasons that someone was so dominant. So I like the Shock sort of leaning into this because they have the players to be able to play it as well.
That backline is so good, dude. Apart from maps where you kind of required to play Lucio or BAP or some shit like that on circuit, you just don't die on that comp. It's so hard to dive because Kiri, if they are playing like a psychopath, they're playing on off angle. They TP back to Ana, Suzu if they haven't used it already, and then Ana just bionades, and then you just heal each other, and then you just can't die to anything unless it's a pulse or some crazy big ult, or someone hits a wicked shot. Maybe you die then, but the Ana, like you said, Scott, just gives free space. And then also the Winston just doesn't die too, because you have so much fucking healing. And with the Ana, if you're in a position where your Kiri's kind of off angling all the time, you can just focus on healing the Winston, it's fine. And then Kiri just plays with a Tracer and then your other DPS, and honestly, you play any other DPS in this fucking comp, but like Cassidy or whatever, like another good nano target. It's just so tough to take down. If you do try and dive that too, if the monkey counter dives, you're just not going to survive. It's just insane. Dude, it's because Kiri is just so strong. Like 3x damage headshot and Suzu and 6-second TP. And yeah, she can wall climb too. It's pretty epic. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think the support meta is really interesting right now because there's so many different approaches to it. I mean, we've seen Zenbap, Lucio Kiri, Kiriko Ana, and everyone's finding their own identity in the meta. And there's no kind of like, this is the right thing to play. Ana, Kiriko, like you guys brought up all the good points. I also think it's just such an offensive driven support line where both your ultimates are just offensively driven of, you know, cooldowns and damage and all that. Maybe I'm a little bit worried about, are you going to need a Lucio beat or a Zen Transcendence against something like an EMP, or how do you fire back in those fights? It seems like that style is a lot about initiative, being proactive, but I still like it. It seems like, at least for Florida style, it's all about enabling someone. I mentioned that kind of when I was casting. It seems they're putting all the eggs in someone's basket. And like, for example, the D.Va composition, which Johnny, you were bringing up, is I feel like D.Va seems to be a good option for people who want to play a more appealing, or at least chase down these double flankers. Seems like double flanker could be very strong in the meta around the dive of Trace or Sombra. And I feel like D.Va, as a tank player myself, I really like swapping to D.Va to just harass a Tracer and just force her out of, or just control off angles a lot better. Because it seems like having off angle position is really strong, whether with a Cassidy, Tracer, Sombra, whatever it is. And D.Va is really good at shutting those down. And I feel like Shock did a little bit of that last season with Kaluge, of bringing out some D.Va every now and then, so it could be like some crusty sauce there. That sounded really disgusting, but you know what I mean. But
the pipe, yes, the pipe. We know what you mean.
The crusty pipe, crusty
pipe.
sauce, whatever.
Yeah, we know what you mean.
Crusty crack pipe. But I'm excited for the meta.
Yeah, it felt a little bit proper go kill, because they slowed things down when they swapped over to like the Doom and the Doomfist, or the Doom and Doomfist, the Doom and the D.Va a little bit, where like proper would like be on one flank and then Heesang would be on like a different flank, and if the enemy team just like commits to either of those or just like tries to isolate the D.Va, then proper's just gonna flank around you, try to hit a pulse, try to get your backline. Heesang is gonna find picks just like flanking on Hanzo or some dumb bullshit, and you know that they win by like tearing apart your engages that way. So there's definitely potential there. Yeah, I've really been enjoyed the hero diversity. So we can sort of hit on that before we move on, because we'll talk about Florida Mayhem too. But we have seen a lot of different compositions this past weekend. Are there like any compositions that you guys are like really in on? And are there any like compositions that you're like really out on? Do you want to have this conversation now, Custa, about the Reinhardt Ramatra thing, or
yeah,
save it?
But before we get there,
all right,
one thing that we can all agree on is that everybody needs to stop playing Genji. I don't know who sold some of these players and teams on Genji, and you know who you are and who I'm talking about. Just stop it. I don't care how much comfort it is. It's just a bad hero right now. Just straight up, it's just not good, and people need to stop playing that. Need to get that off my chest. Sorry, do you want to talk about the Rein
almost hit the blade, the AKM blade? I'm pretty sure I saw a tweet somewhere where someone hit it almost.
Yeah,
like, bro.
It like the blade doesn't even do anything in this meta either. As long as Kiriko's in the meta, it's gonna be bad.
It's like, hey, well, I'm gonna force beat with my fucking my DPS ultimate. Yeah, can't wait for that. It's so stupid, dude. Like it just gets it gets one tap by Kiriko. Good Kiriko players like own fucking DPS flankers like 9 times out of 10. Like such a shit pick.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like I noticed that a lot from the Contenders teams, and just from like my knowledge of their hero pools, a lot of those DPS fell back to what they were comfortable on, because you'd rather just play the hero that you're best on, even if it's not compositionally in the matchup the best choice. And those players that you brought up that I guess we're not name dropping, those are their bread and butter. And they sucked at it because the matchup sucks. And that's what sucks about Contenders, is that it's not that their mechanics are like centuries below OWL. It's just that they're just dumb a little bit, because they just don't have 40 hours to dump into figuring out matchups. What is your plan B? What is your plan C? How do you make those decisions? How do you have the confidence to make those decisions? And I always felt like Contenders were just knowledge gap wise down below. And things like running Genji is a lot of from what Contenders were trying to run, basically because they just panicked and went back to just level 1 for them.
Yeah,
square one.
I think it's really important, you know, like a lot of like the Overwatch League driven, I feel like composition strategy, stuff like that. It is literally like VOD reviewing, thinking, like setting framework for your team. What are our strengths? What should we practice? Stuff like that. And like, if you don't have time on your schedule, you're going to class and like you're an amateur player and stuff like that. Like, it's so hard to stay on top of all that and like always play like the best compositions and like cater to the strength of your team. So I completely buy that. Someone who was pretty outspoken this past week about that was the Saints team as well. I think Falls tweeted out something like, yeah, so I'll just skip class, guys. Don't worry. I'll just skip class and, you know, we'll eventually improve and get better. So it's definitely like a pain point where some of these Contenders teams, obviously, they don't have as much time to put into the game and compositions and teamwork, stuff like that, right? So I think that's fine. You know, we're like, I'm not being too hard on them. I'm like, you know, they're doing their best, and you know, there were some great performances, all considering how little less time they spent focusing on the game and stuff like that. Another hero that I'd like to ban that I didn't think do too well, and we got two support people on the podcast, so you know, might disagree with me here. Can we not play Brig? Like, I just don't think Brig is like the strongest pick right now.
I do not like Brig either. I think it kind of blows. It's like, Brig is still so easy to dive. Rally as an ability just sucks. It's so bad. Oh, I pop Rally. Okay, everybody gather around, wait for 5 minutes, get the overhealth, and we'll go in. Like, as soon as you pop Rally, there's an honor on the other team that's already naded you, and you're fucking dead, basically. It's just such a bad ultimate. Like, if you're playing the fight super slow and you manage to kite, like, great. But the likelihood of you being able to do that is kind of trash. And I'd rather have a nano, or I'd rather have a beat, or I'd rather have a rush. I guess it does work on some maps with like high ground. Like, you have your Brig, Zen, or Brigana, not Brig Kiriko. That just fucking sucks altogether. But where you can play defensively, but you'd still sooner rather have another deep support pick right now.
You can play it. I just don't think you will win the tournament.
Yeah.
You'll lose,
I can play, dude. I can play fucking Sim. I'm just not gonna win the tournament. Like, dude, you can fucking say that about any hero. The pick is just not that good. Like, I guess it's okay. It's not the worst. You can pack your Tracer. You know, if you need to pack a tank, sure, you can pack a tank. But the healing output is like severely diminished as well, because you can't really get close to anybody at all. Especially this meta that we're currently in. It's just not.
I think I remember casting a matchup. Was it Florida versus somebody where they were running Ana Kiri and the other team was running like Brig Ana? And you thought that because of the Brig, at least I tried to explain in the cast, is you're obviously trying to go for a more defensive backline of trying to like flail shot the Winston, or just having ranged heals with the packs, which is like kind of, I feel like Briggs, if she were to be meta, it's to enable a Tracer, these off anglers and stuff like that, where Kiri, Ana, it's a little trouble with the LOS and stuff like that, or having to TP. But I even noticed in the Brig Ana, they had like way more deaths than Kiri Ana. And I think that Kiri can be used in that defensive playstyle, because you can just people leave the situation as long as your team isn't stacked on top of each other. And I think Brig is like that default, like, oh, I'm going to peel for my Ana. And it didn't end up really working out.
Yeah.
I want to raise you one more, because I'm talking about just one team at this point as well.
No, we're not. Who are you thinking
just name them. Name drop them.
No, I disagree, Custa.
Oh, it's Vegas Eternal. Wait, what do you mean? Who is it?
What do you mean?
It's Mouthful.
What do you mean?
Genji and Rakatak, who is just convinced that Brig and Mercy are good picks.
You're putting words in my mouth. Unbelievable.
Oh, we did see Mercy too, yeah.
Here's the thing. I think Brig has some upside for everything that, you know, Jen just said, right? Like, there can be some good value where you're pushing the Winston around. If the opposition's playing Genji, yeah, sure, why not? You know, everything's going good. But like, the Mercy is where I have a bigger issue. I think it was on this attack. It might have been against Atlanta Rein, where they played like Mercy Ashe for like the time. Like, it's not going to work against a good dive, because some of the biggest value from Mercy is enabling one player, but also when they die, being able to bring them back. Like, you know, you're in a hit scan mirror, you can get reses. Any out team is never going to give you that space to be able to res anyone that dies. And we saw it just sort of fall by the wayside. It's just frustrating, because like, I feel like these things are pretty, you know, I don't play in scrims anymore, right? And you know, you just look at what everyone else is playing. It's pretty easy to work that out. So it's just frustrating to see. And I agree with comfort can be valuable, but at some point, there becomes a limit. And, Genji's just in the dumpster. If you talk to any player who's played ranked lately, they can tell you Genji's in the dumpster. They can tell you that mercy pocketing, a hit scan only works when there's no coordination. It's not going to work against a team like the Atlanta Reign or the Florida Mayhem. So I agree with you, Johnny. It can be fine. You might win some maps and matches, but you're not going to win the tournament. You're not going to go that far. But maybe that's not what these teams are aiming for. Maybe they are just trying to sneak out wins by playing what they're comfortable with.
I will give Vegas some credit because I feel like the Dove Ashe and the Rack Attack Mercy worked out on Blizzard World when they were on defense. He was in this 2v1 where the other team, I think it was Seeker or not, somebody, I think Valiant, didn't have a Mercy pocket. So Dove was winning that hit scan duel like 90% of the time. But like you said, if you were to just comp swap, and I don't know can't remember how that matchup went, but Dove was winning those duels because of the Mercy. So I feel like there could be a crumb of value depending on the situation to have a Mercy with the Ashe, but then all that takes to break that down is pressure. And we saw even Proper and Scrimleaks getting shit on Ashe by just having a Sombra on the perma flank. So it's a Sombra Winston would be enough to crack that. But yeah, I felt like Dove looked better with a Mercy with him than a Brig in that case.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna make an executive decision and save the Ramatra Rhino composition talk for later. Full on Spitfire Custa. I've gone back on it like 2 or 3 times now.
I'm good. I've just been waiting for it. I'm just waiting for the go button. But okay, later. Okay, hold on.
Hold on. Florida Mayhem. That's the team I want to talk about next. They were one of the most dominant teams in Group A, of course. They won out the group, 1 seed, just like we predicted, guys. Right? I know I did. They just look amazing. Someone Rollstar, I called it on like map 1, and I'm gonna keep hammering it home for the rest of the year. I don't even care if it sucks, to be honest. I'll just vote on Rollstar anyway. That way I can't do wrong. Merit Cassidy as well. What do we think? Is this just like Florida Mayhem off to a hot start here this year? They look coordinated, where some teams, will question whether they have had much time to scrim at all. Or are you just like in for the season, Jen? Are you in for the season with the Florida Mayhem? Or do you think that they'll slow down eventually?
I'm really excited, but I also think they just got their shit together in the off season a lot quicker. Like they didn't have to sub in as many new pieces. Like it didn't feel like they had a whole team rebuild, compared to some other teams. And we've only got to compare them against the Shock and the Titans. I want to see them against London, Houston, Boston before I say that they're the best dive team in the league.
Smart.
But
I would not do that.
From Pro-Am, I would say that they're the best dive team in the league and a strong contender for that Rollstar MVP, whatever you just said. But yeah, it has to do, I think, with how many roster rebuilds that we had this season and how much slowing down some teams had to do in the offseason because of that.
Yeah,
I just think they're sick. Their fucking team is just ridiculous.
True.
Like Merit is just an unbelievably good player. Like his hit scan and just anything he picks up is just at least top 3. I feel like in terms of a hit scan at the bare minimum. You could say top 1 in certain heroes. Like his Sojourn last year was crazy. We're seeing Chorong not on Lucio, which is kind of cool. And like, holy shit, his honor is actually really fucking good.
Yeah,
maybe they're off to a hot start, yeah, but I just think they're a fucking sick team. Checkmate as well is every single year he just gets better. And then RuPaul, who had a really good year last year on Florida, continues to do that. Then Sauna comes in, fucking jet lagged, wakes up, plays Tracer, feels good, man. Like this team is just really good. I don't think it's them necessarily off to a hot start. Maybe they are, yeah, but they're just really a really good team. How many maps they drop? 1 or something? I'm not sure who that was again. That was against Shock, right? They dropped 1 map against Shock in the first match of match of this. Yeah, and I don't think you can argue that this team is going to be top tier this season. Not even just off this performance, just name value alone, but it's just backed up by the performance they've had recently.
For me, it's not as much about how, are they top tier? It's like, how top tier are they, right? It's like, where is their peak of this roster? Because in the past, I think the issue that Florida had is they've always been a smart team playing around someone. I have a lot of respect for Goomba as a head coach. I think he has a great head for like Overwatch in general. But now they actually have all of the mechanical players in every single role to be able to back that up. So now it's just like, how scary is this roster going to be? We haven't really seen them be tested. So I don't want to jump the gun too much because, they just kind of rolled through their group, but they're playing with confidence. Right now, obviously I would probably put them behind Atlanta, but I think that would be a banging match. But right now they're definitely top 2 from what we've seen in the tournament.
I'm going to ask you an unfair question here, Custa.
I'm looking forward to it.
Classic, sports radio question. Here we go. If
All
you
right.
were, an aspiring championship team, Overwatch League team here, you're putting together a great roster, right? You want to get the best players possible.
We're trying to win
very
this
good
year.
budget. Very good budget. Would you rather have, for your hit scan player, would you rather have Merit or would you rather have Happy?
Oh, that is unfair. I'm gonna go with Merit.
Good
I don't know.
choice. Good fucking choice.
I think Happy is a great player, and he's obviously a veteran hit scan in this league, but I feel like we're just starting to learn how good Merit is. It still doesn't feel like I've seen that man hit his peak, and he did some disgusting stuff last year. So I'm gonna go with Merit. I think I would pick up Merit before I picked up Happy. So yeah, I hope he proves me right.
It's easy, bro.
Yeah,
Easy.
That's easy. Okay.
Easy.
This is why
Merit's
you didn't get
just
asked the
sick.
question, Jack.
Don't care. Don't care. Didn't ask. He's a fucking god.
We haven't even
gamer,
seen Happy play on Houston yet. I feel like that's unfair.
Yeah. No, it is
No,
unfair.
it's
It's ruthless, okay? But that's what it's like to be on the Plat Chat podcast here. We're ruthless, okay? That's how it is. It's a bit interesting because, one Overwatch League team actually had to ask themselves that question. Unless, I don't know what went into that. Maybe I'll hit up my secret sources and see if what went down there. But someone actually had to ask themselves the question, do we want Happy or do we want Merit? And they went with Happy. So we'll see how it goes for Houston in week 2 of the Pro-Am. It's going to be fun. But Merit, he's looking unbelievable right now. Yeah, I mean, well, I was going to say that he was the best Cassidy, but then I remember Lip exists. So
Yeah, Lip was
top two Cassidy this week.
Top two.
Yeah, top 2. But yeah, Florida Mayhem are looking incredibly good. And I'm just personally very happy for my reputation's sake. Just, self-brag that I got my Florida Mayhem tweet out just in time to see them actually be really good. So I got in early. Songs are mooning, and I'm having a great time here as a Florida Mayhem fan. So I'll just keep dick riding Florida Mayhem for the rest of the season. It's going to make it great. All right, moving on. Atlanta Reign then, probably the other most dominant team this season. What do we think about the Atlanta Reign here now then? Are they the team to beat in the Pro-Am? Do you think you can conclusively say after week 1 that Atlanta Reign looked like the best team in the Pro-Am this past week?
I think we always knew they were going to be good. And I think, like Scott said with Mayhem, it's hard to really tell where their peak is right now, and I'd agree. But their team, again, name value alone, it goes kind of insane. Like, Chio in the backline. Lip is just an absolute monster. Like, when's the last time Lip played against Western teams, like, permanently? Like, it's kind of fucking scary. And it's definitely a symptom of the APAC region being a little bit of a smaller region. So we don't see Lip against other, like, Western top-tier hit scans. But dude, they're just so good. Where did we haven't done power rankings or anything like that, I don't think yet. But we've been talking about Reign for like a while as soon as they did reveal their roster, and it's unreal. Like, we were concerned about Hawk having communication problems, and I think in an interview or something that I saw that more in-depth shit is difficult, but basic stuff is not that hard. You can still learn at callouts and stuff. And even Donghack was doing really well on the Wrecking Ball and other dive tanks. Yeah, I would say them and Mayhem are probably the teams to beat in Pro-Am. But I take Reign over Mayhem, I think. Right now, at least. Obviously, we haven't seen Group COD. But.
I would say, like, Stalker is the most exciting player, I think, on that team. I thought he was looking like proper out there on the Tracer. Not gonna lie, I hope the proper fans aren't mad, but Stalker, we were trying to give him player of the match so many times that we had to pick someone else because he just got it so many times. By far the best Tracer performance of Pro-Am, I would say. You can argue Checkmate and Sugar Free were close in that top 3, and Sombra, Lip Sombra is looking like one of the best. I know there's not too many contenders in NA for that. And Fielder on BAP, shout out to him. He had some really creative off angles, and he's styling. Although I don't feel like Atlanta got challenged, so I think when your BAP can take an off angle and just amp Matrix solo, it tells more about the difference of teams rather than the player itself. But it was cool that they took some liberties like that. But looking in hindsight, in Group B looked very, very easy, and we haven't seen, like you guys said, Atlanta against a team of their caliber yet.
Custa, what do you think? Is Lip the leading frontrunner preseason MVP candidate, as we had the conversation when he had 0 deaths in this match against the Saints?
Way too early predictions, absolutely. Like, Lip has been runner-up MVP for such a long time. Like, he's been in the conversation ever since he joined this league. I like Jack's point. Like, the West has never had to deal with Lip just being in their backyard. He's always been that juggernaut that you only had to face once you made it to the playoffs. Yeah, the beast of the East, the 7'9" gaming warlord that you would have to, David versus Goliath. All that Matt quote that you need to throw in there. But yeah, like Lip is just the leading MVP candidate. And the thing about Atlanta that has impressed me the most is what we talked about heading into the season. Is this team just going to function well together with, Gator as head coach, Hawk as, the only Western player as one of the tanks? And they answered all those questions. They look flawless. They're utilizing their gameplay. They have a great understanding of how to play the game. For me, this first look just sort of solidifies that, hey, we can take this team at face value for how bonkers their roster is and just run with that bag. And I think Atlanta easily contends with all the super teams that we have coming into this year now after I've seen them in the prime.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that really strikes me about this team as well is not only do they have an incredibly stacked roster, but the way they come into this Pro-Am and just look very coordinated and like they've got a great framework when it comes to their compositions and the way they play as well. Because we saw the leaked scrims, at least I did, where we saw Vigilante pop off against the Shock in scrims and Stalker Tracer, wow, that looks amazing. Lip Sombra, we know that was, fantastic already. But then they come out this weekend as well and they rock the Hawk Ramatra composition where Stalker playing the May. And I was like, wow, they can play a lot of different stuff here. And even though I think it's the match that I recall specifically, they played against the Valiant, and I'm like, okay, well, it's the Valiant, you can't read into this too much. But still, I think they had really that was Chio playing the Lucio, by the way, which differs from Vigilante playing the Sun here next to Fielder. But with Chio in the lineup playing the Lucio as well, the way they just played this Ramatra composition, engaged really well, disengaged at the right time when they didn't have May abilities, for example, re-engaging with sound barriers, annihilation, stuff like this, right? They played the tempo matchup really well. They played the momentum of the fights really well. So not only is this a mechanical, very individually skilled team that you have to look out for, where they can play this Tracer Sombra composition on Blizzard World, but they can also take it to you when it comes to brawl matchups by forcing this Ramatra composition as well on, Antarctic Peninsula and stuff like that, right? So this well-roundedness, it makes it very difficult for me to see a big weakness with the Atlanta Reign currently. So I don't know how you beat them. It's probably getting them onto that Ramatra composition to give you some kind of an advantage, because I just don't think you'll be able to match the Tracer Sombra, quite frankly. But still, they look really good on both, and I think that versatility within this team is just super scary as well. So here you go, Atlanta Reign. I don't think we have the opponents yet that Atlanta Reign will be playing, who they're playing, whereas we know that in the bracket Florida Mayhem will play London Spitfire, so we can predict that match later on, even though it's in 2 weeks or something. But there you go. I want to mention quick, we've talked a lot about the Overwatch League teams in Group A and Group B, but actually I forgot one team that that we should talk about, the London Spitfire with the Rein and the Armada comp. Custa, just go ahead, okay? Just go ahead. What do you have to say about Hadi coming out rocking the Reinhardt most of this week?
I thought London looked solid. I think they looked exactly how I imagined them to look. They didn't exceed my expectations. They didn't go below them. They are still playing with the power of friendship. They're still playing well as a unit, leaning into that Reinhardt, May style if they can play that brawl. We'll have that discussion of, is Reinhardt going to be better than Ramatra? Hardy said in an interview that Ramatra is Ramatra brawl is a poor man's brawl or something like that, or a poor man's Reinhardt, however the quote goes. But I think there's something there of just comfort for London Spitfire, but they look good when they play the Winston as well. We got to look at Lethal and Sky Ripper, and it didn't look great, but that might have been just dealing with a bit of silliness from the opposition team and feeling like you have to match that in some way. But yeah, I honestly don't have super strong feelings from London Spitfire so far. I kind of want to see more of them when they actually play some better teams. And I feel like they're not just doing what they usually do.
I think there's more to see from London. I was almost slightly frustrated just because I'm so excited about Lethal and Sky Ripper. I've casted them for so long in Contenders, and they were, at least Lethal has a lot of hype behind him of just being a flex god and mostly, really having that hit scan prowess, was really known as that Cassidy, and even could be, I always thought, like, kind of looking at this roster, that Lethal was going to come in as this tracer, because London, I feel like, needed that dedicated tracer player, and it sounded like Backbone was trying it out, and then he tried to play some Sombra, and it's just, if London want to try these different looks and maybe the double flanker Winston dive that a lot of teams are going for, I feel like figuring out how to incorporate Lethal is going to be important, because the one map that they brought Lethal and Skyripper in, I wanted to carve my eyes out of my head. It was just, but that was just, it seemed like obviously they're just not practiced together. But that whole Vegas versus London with their substitutes, I honestly wanted to just bleach my brain after. It was a fiesta of Torbjorn, Molten Coring the spawn and shit like that. But
a little trolling involved there.
Dude, Torb's good at Hollywood, bro. What do you mean?
Okay.
No, yeah, nothing wrong with that. But Molten Core the spawn is a different thing.
That's fine. But... just getting rid of your ult.
I think like Lethal's first pulse, he like killed himself with his own pulse or something.
Yeah, that too.
That was epic.
Yeah, it's just...
I actually think he got booped. In his defense, I'm pretty sure he got booped back into that.
I didn't see
You're
it.
pretty sure. Like, where does that come from? Eh? Like, you just.
I'm pretty sure I remember that, because it was in that corridor there at the bottom left right now.
Yeah, but I don't think they showed it on
booped.
broadcast, because we just saw the man die, and then everyone.
Yeah,
was like, oh.
But I was like, well, there's a gaggle of people. He definitely got body blocked or some shit. VOD review time.
Hey,
turret. That's a good turret spot. Or you put it in the classic turret spot behind the flowers.
Yeah, we justified it, but it was a little goofy.
Oh, here we go.
Where I don't even know where he is.
Yeah, okay. This Rein
who's
by
gonna
the way.
boop him? Okay,
he's over here. Okay, he's over here.
Okay, yeah. Play the fucking VOD.
Oh, calm down, Jesus
Play it.
Christ.
Get to the fucking bit, bro.
There it is.
So here it is.
That's all we see. It's rack
Did the
attack.
bridge
Maybe it's on the
bash
shield.
towards him? Yeah, maybe the bridge.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she bashes towards him.
Yeah, leg day said that in the Kaza he thought he shield bashed, but
damn,
it
good
was.
catch. That would be a hard thing to catch.
I think we just fucking guessed, honestly. You kind of have to do that. But yeah, him killing himself was kind of an LOL. And just that whole roster. I'm glad they got off of it for map 3 when they decided they wanted to win. But for the cope there is that once they figure out how to use Lethal and how to use Skyripper, that I think London are just going to have even more looks. And hopefully they're not just the masters of like one thing.
Yeah.
It feels like 2022 in a way, where London, when they run out on the rush on the Rhine, I remember it specifically on Colosseum, everybody's like, what the fuck, they're playing Rhine? What the hell? This is going to be so bad. And then they just kind of flatten everybody, and it was like London moment. It felt like this, London in this tournament too, where it's like, well, we know this comp super well. Hardy is like such a good Rhine player, and they're just so good at playing this like brawl, this rush brawl, whatever the fuck. And it's going to run over teams that aren't necessarily experienced with that, and playing against London Spitfire and playing against how high level their rush is. So it's something that London are very good at, and it's kind of nice to see them kind of go back to that in a way, because I don't think that comp is bad. They didn't play a bad comp at all. I just think they know that very well, and it's easier to crush teams that maybe aren't as experienced going up against it. On the flip side of things, though, I will say, people going back to their comfort picks, especially in contenders, I know we talked about this a minute ago, I don't think that's a good idea at all. Normally I'd be like, yeah, they're cool, go back to your comforts, you know? But like when your comfort hero is just a hero that is just absolute shit, I would say probably not the best idea. But you get more value playing like a Cassidy, you know? I don't really like that kind of
so not Genji, but other things.
No, but
yeah,
okay,
like
here's the thing, Jack. We're not talking about our team to have a whole season of like, you know, playing the metas. We're talking about teams that are just trying to get one win in the Pro-Am, right?
Exactly. So I do understand that point of view too, and it does suck in a way, but obviously it's a fantastic opportunity for these contenders teams to play against Overwatch League teams, but the support, not like the role, but like the support to back staff room and everything else isn't really there. So, you know, maybe, yeah, the comfort pick a little bit more justified at that point, even if the hero is shit. But it also shows people like, you know, Trick Room and shit like that. They're pretty fucking good. Like these are players that were either going to get picked up or will get picked up or seen to in some way or another. Maybe they get picked up after the season. Like there are a lot of standout DPS players, especially this tournament. So.
Yeah. One of the biggest things that stood out to me about London Spitfire, specifically when they were playing the Reinhardt composition, and I think they played Saints here later this day that we're looking at right now. But the real like Overwatch League diff is that you had Saints on one hand who came out this weekend and they're playing super aggressive. They're playing this Kiriko rush most of the time and they're diving in with Winston, stuff like that. But London Spitfire repeatedly throughout the week, they really stood out to me because they would take their time so many times, like in these fights. They just like wait out and wait for the perfect moment. They'd be happy to like let the enemy team have like 5 extra points on the control meter or whatever, just so London Spitfire could engage like the right way with abilities up and like the way they wanted to. And that to me like really speaks like experience and like someone who's, you know, they've clearly like got into a good rhythm of like making good decisions at the right time. And that was like the biggest thing that stood out to me about London Spitfire. They play this Rein composition, but they acknowledged that like, well, if we need to wait for Hadi to regenerate his shield, if we need to wait for Backbone to like get his Maywall back and stuff like this, we will fight on our own terms and put ourselves in the best position to succeed. And I think that was the thing that stood out to me most about London Spitfire, is that like they're just like a really smart team. The communication is there. We know that from last year. And they're going to be, you know, a tough nut to crack. Like you can't just like get into the server and just like play super high pace, because they'll adjust to you and they'll find a way to win some of these team fights, even though you think you're an advantage or you even have like better mechanical skill. Like they're a smart team, and I don't think they're going to be easy to take down for the rest of this tournament. So I was pretty impressed by London Spitfire. Also, like the way they set up Sparker on this Cassidy. He had some standout moments this past week where, especially on Blizzard World against Saints would just like dive in. Lone Spitfire would make it super difficult for them, and they just set up Sparker on the Cassidy to find picks and facilitate him to deal with tracers, deal with Sombra, stuff like this. So I was actually really impressed by Lone Spitfire. I'm sad because I predicted Saints to make it out of the group, and then I convinced everyone on the podcast to predict with me that Saints would make it out. So I'll take the blame fully. Custa wanted to go with London. Jaws wanted to go with London. Avast wanted to go with London, I think. But then I just converted everyone, so I apologize.
The thing is, you pay the bills, Johnny. That's the problem here. There's a power dynamic that I'm not
there's something weird going on.
There's a weird power dynamic.
Wait, what do you mean here? What do you mean here?
We don't agree.
Feel like you have to agree
Johnny
with
has
me?
actually said to me before that if we don't agree with him on Plat, he's just not gonna.
I do remember that conversation.
Yeah, you remember that conversation?
Very sus, honestly. Yeah.
Sus behavior coming out from Johnny.
Well, what is this? If we get investigated by the SEC or something, I promise it's not the case. Like they're trolling. They're trolling.
Please no, don't deport me.
Please no, yeah. I haven't told Jen yet, but we pay our guests, so you know I'll hit you up with the PayPal later, Jen. There we go. Anyway, but yeah, you have to agree with me. That's the. Anyway, yeah.
Basically, we're having beef.
Yeah. So this Reinhardt thing, then, do you want to get into that bit, Custa? Do you believe in the Reinhardt? Do you think that Ramatra really is this like poor man's kind of like Reinhardt comp, or because I genuinely think that the Ramatra comp is like solid. I think it's versatile. I think it's good. You can play aggressively with it, get into backlines, or you can play defensively and like, you know, re-engage with Annihilation, stuff like that. What's your read on the Ramatra versus Reinhardt stuff?
Yeah. So now that we're finally here, I can safely say that. I'm not sure, honestly. Genuinely, I really don't have I don't have a perfect read on it, because the thing is, from just what we're looking at so far, Ramatra does seem like the better pick overall. It seems to be more consistent. The ability to pull up the damage of just like going in a Nemesis form, punch a bunch of fools in the face. The Annihilation is such a great zoning tool, but Reinhardt has his moments as well. So it's like, in the group A and B, every time we saw the difference between the Reinhardt and the Ramatra, it felt like we were seeing, it was hard to determine if that was a compositional difference or just the mechanical difference of those two teams as a whole. So I personally like the Ramatra. I think he just offers more, and I think he does more damage. His ability to like, especially if he gets like nanoed and just like run down the backline, seems very strong. But every time we saw it match up in, you know, King of the Hill map, it felt like Ramatra came out on top more often than not.
The Ram's like kind of strange, because on one hand, I'm like, oh, you kind of have to play Lucio to make it worth it, because you have to run people down. But then you got that fucking buff where he's faster in Nemesis form. Then it's like, well, you don't actually have to play Lucio anymore. Where Rein, you fucking need Lucio, otherwise you just lose, because you can't close the gap, otherwise you just get poked out. I think Ramatra being able to have that flexibility in the back line in the comp is far more superior right now than like a mediocre Rein team. I still think teams like London, who are very good at Rein and very good at May as well, can make it work. But the Ram just enabling your team to be a bit more flexible is super nice, because you can run like Kiri Ana if you want to, and you can run a variety of other supports if you feel like the map dictates it. Whereas Rein, you do need that Lucio. And the Ramatra too, in the fucking neutral. Okay, can I just fucking say this too? Why the fuck is his punches amped by Matrix? Is it a projectile? Clearly it is a project. The way it's coded, it's clearly a projectile, but that's a fucked interaction. It's funny as hell, but it's so like.
Wow, you're really mad about this.
Yeah, dude, Jaws is just
You've
angry.
been cursing like 4 times in 15 seconds.
I'm like, I don't know. I'm just confused, bro. I'm not angry. I'm just confused. It just doesn't really make sense to me. But it is kind of funny seeing a Rancher punch through the window and just annihilate people through.
Yeah, someone just dies. Yeah,
I think that is extremely funny. And can I just mention how
you can say whatever you want, Joss.
Yeah,
just go. Just don't ask.
Left and right.
Mention it. Like how it wouldn't have been funny. Actually, it would have been extremely boring. But when me and Scott were playing like scrims a few weeks ago before Battle.net, not Battle.net, Game Battles cucked us completely from signing up to.
Is that why we didn't make it to the Pro-Am?
Yeah, okay. It's why, because Game Battles decided you were not allowed to make a team anymore. And Ramatra having the nerf in between then of the infinite annihilation, because I still have the footage, by the way, Scott. We had a fucking scrim where it was double echo, double Ramatra. 4 annihilations were happening at the same time, and the fight just didn't end for like 4 minutes. And so I'm like, obviously kind of happy that that went through. But I think the variety, what we're seeing right now with the Ram, with the Rein, I think, is it a skill matchup? I'm not sure. I'm kind of with you, Scott, but I do think the Ram is better because of that added flexibility of the backline. I think we also lost Jen. Rest in peace.
Yeah, she'll be back. She told me her Go XLR died, so her mic died. But
I also think, for me, I think Ramatra is better against other heroes as well, which I think is an important thing to consider when you're going up against it. Like, I think Reinhardt, I feel like Ramatra against like a dive comp, he can at least poke from distance and do something while not in that form, and then play aggressive and pop that nemesis. While I don't think Rein just kind of looks around against those kind of comps. So just more versatile, but also being just as good in the brawl mirror just gives him more value. So I think you'll see a lot of teams moving towards Ramatra. And, as much as we talk about, it's great to have so much diversity in the meta right now. Look, see, everyone can try everything at some point. It's only going to get tighter and tighter and tighter as people start watching, people start practicing, scrims start solidifying. I think we'll probably fall back into just like the Winston, Lucio, Kiriko versus Ramatra Brawl, and it'll depend on the map soon.
I think that's really cool because obviously this being like the pre-season to the regular season, I think it's kind of nice to have that little taster along with obviously seeing Contenders teams. So it is kind of wicked. The Nano Ramatra ult is crazy. It's dumb stupid. If they don't have amp speed or anything like that to get away, oh my God, nice pass. If they don't have anything to get away from you, you just die. Your Ramatra could put up shield or your Rein could put up shield, but he just running past you, dude. He donk walk into the back line, just doing infinite damage. I think it's quite a funny thing to look at.
Yeah. We saw a couple of times Nano Ramatra, and I honestly just laughed out loud. IRL.
He two shots backliners, right?
Yeah.
I think he just walks through and just 2 shots backliners. And he has 20% movement speed now with that as well. So it's he do be just walking at you.
Yeah. There's not much you can do.
Yeah.
Feels bad, man. Also, it leads to good Ana play too. Ana being able to sleep Ram in all, or Ana when he donk walks towards you, boo, you just hit him with the sleep and he falls over. It leads to a lot of that as well, which is really cool because there aren't, thinking about it, in the support lineup without using ultimates, who's good in the neutral versus Ram running towards you and a Ram ult? Not really bad. I guess you can Lamb, but Ana's really the best there, which is really good.
Right. Still in the Ram Rein, right?
Yeah, we're still.
Sorry, had a minor DC, but just a quick ad. I feel like the Ram Rein kind of overlap kind of reminds me a lot of the Winston Hammond overlap of people were trying to figure out which one was the best to play and how you can sometimes play either one. And it feels like Ram has more technicals to think about in terms of spacing. Feels like spacing with Ram is a lot harder to execute because your shield, you have to bring it up. It's off cooldown. Rein, you can just bring it out whenever, but then there's kind of that regeneration with Rein while it's cooldown based with Ramatra. And it feels like Ramatra is a lot harder to execute because we saw what a bad Ramatra looks like, aka not dropping any names. I'll just say
don't do it.
Yeah, you were so close.
So I thought about it, but either way, some Contenders teams ran Ramatra, and you saw what that looks like when you're just when you take that whatever the form, I forgot what it's called, and you just like run in, people think they're invincible. And it's like you actually have to be really smart and measured with your spacing with Menchaca and Rein. You depend on that armor and that shield. It's a lot easier IMO to run the Reinhardt. So as much as Rein could be the rich man's brawl, I feel like it is a bit of an easier brawl with how you can use your shield. So but yeah, it's still to be discovered which one's going to be the better one. I think the smarter players on Menchaca are going to be better though.
Yeah. Also, as the most basic of answers that we just talked around this entire conversation. This is why we're professional podcasters, because we don't say the obvious thing. We instead spend 20 minutes talking about it. It's way easier for an off-tank to play Menchaca than Reinhardt as well. So, if you're Hawk or someone in Atlanta, it's like, yeah, I'll just play Menchaca, and that's why they're playing it. So it's not like they're making a conscious choice of like, are we subbing in Donghack to play like Reinhardt or something, or Hawk Reinhardt? That's like, no. Well, Hawk would rather just play their Menchaca. It's way easier. But yeah, I'd like to have a chat before we move on to Group C and D, which is being played this next week. Talk a bit about the Contenders teams that performed this past week. Obviously, we won't be seeing them again because they're all out. That sounded way more brutal than I intended it to be.
That did sound brutal. That was fucked up, man.
Yeah, but I'd like to give them, their time in the spotlight as well. There were, again, so many teams that stood out this past week and players that made names for themselves. So I'm just going to ask you your favorite. Oh, Jesus Christ, it's too long. Producing is hard. Which Contenders team would you have liked to see make it out of Group A and B? Which team had do you think had the most potential, or did you enjoy watching the most? This could be completely subjective, so it doesn't have to be the best team, but just a team that stood out to you this past week that you really enjoyed watching overall. And I'll just say for the other listeners, we have Timeless and Trick Room in Group A and Saints in Group B. For some reason, I just thought that Vegas and Valiant were Contenders teams, but obviously they're our teams. But so yeah, you got Saints, Timeless, and Trick Room. Did any players' teams stand out to you?
I really wanted Trick Room to make the run. After beating the Shock, I felt like there was so much cool narrative script. Contenders teams beating, the Shock, and they go all the way and knock them out of groups. And then Shock started 0-2, and then Trick Room kind of just fell off a cliff after. So I was really sad about that. But they were looking like one of the best Hammond teams coming out of Contenders. And I was hoping that, even though they weren't expected to be the #1 Contenders team, they were #1 in my heart. So
I'd say the Wubheads are rising. Damn it. You're gonna go with that one too. Yeah, well, they're good. They're a good fucking team, dude. Also, the funniest little matchup occurred a couple of times where it was Cuffer versus Punk, a little battle of Australia, which was kind of cool. But Wub is just, dude, he kind of clears. Who's really surprised? Obviously, there's a lot of fans, a lot of Wubheads out there already, but I think it really did put his skills on display. I think over the last week and 2 weeks, sorry. And Cal as well in the backline also kind of impressed me on the map and just on support as a whole. I think that team would have been super fun to make it through. Kind of sucks, obviously both teams went 1 and 3, but yeah, I think Timeless for me would have been great. I would love to see Wub against some of the teams in the B, in Group B. I would love to see them against Atlanta Rein and stuff. Not sure he'd be able to stand up to Lip. He is the GOAT, but
I don't know about that, Jack. Yeah, I don't know about that.
I'm literally saying I don't think he can stand up. Dude, I'm literally saying I don't think he can stand up, but it still would have been cool. I think Timeless as a team, and they have a big fan base too, right? So that would have been pretty epic.
Yeah,
I want to give a little bit more love to Cuffer. I think Cuffer on Winston on high ping just went absolutely crazy on some of these maps. So, big shout out to him. I think that's a difficult thing to do and went toe to toe with our Winstons, and I think did a great job. So much love, but I think you need to be realistic of for me, Saints is the team that I think probably would have been the best and most consistent out of all of them. I think they have the most flexibility in their roster of able to play so many different things. Their ball dive looked really good. King, I think, had a very notable performance of, another one of those players who came into the Overwatch League and everyone was like, wow, great. And then when you go back down to Contenders after that, it's so easy to just that is your narrative for the rest of your career of you came in at the end of a season, did poorly, and now no our team wants to touch you. I think King had a great performance on this Tracer. went crazy. And all these other players on Saints have either been in the league or been hyped up before as well. So honestly, I will say the one thing I was disappointed about is obviously Tree had a good performance, but people have been selling Tree as like the next proper, right? And so I was really hoping to just see him go absolutely sicko mode. And I really feel like we didn't get that true performance from him just yet. So I'm sure we'll see him again sometime soon, popping off in some capacity. But unfortunately, I don't think he really lived up to that hype and expectation that people were setting for him.
Yeah, and let's be clear, that's not really his fault because it's others' job to hype up accordingly and appropriately and make sure it doesn't get out of control. But there was definitely like a couple of days before the pro and we're like, Tree is the next big star in coming up from Contenders.
Yeah.
There was a bit of that vibe going. So I don't, he played well overall. But this whole Saints team, I mean, I was a fan going into the weekend, but I think you could tell that honestly, like they played well. Some people said in the community that they thought Saints were disappointing. I honestly thought they played well. I think they were a bit exposed against teams like London Spitfire, for example, that dealt with their dives like in a very smart way. But if you look at like this series against like Vegas Eternal, like they were styling on one of the lower teams in the Overwatch League. Like just flat out, they're like really good. Mikey, he's an Overwatch League capable main tank. I mean, he played in the grand finals just like 5 months ago, right? And almost won. He was one map away from winning the grand finals. I think that both Squid and Vega, I think, is a competent backline as well. So I just really enjoyed all aspects of Saints. So they're currently in the lead for this separate Contenders prize pool. I actually didn't know about this, but just because I'm, I guess I'm not a professional anymore. But for Contenders teams that don't make the top 4, basically like the best performing Contenders teams, they get like a small little bit of money. It's nothing huge, but if you're
7,500 and 2,500.
Yeah, but if you go to college and you're an amateur, then maybe this will make a difference. So if you're the best performing Contenders team that don't make top 4, you get $7,500. And if you're second, you get $2,500. And, I don't think it's like classic esports team prize winning gouging where like the players get like half of that. I don't even know, like, Saints, like, is Saints like an actual org or something? Like, it all goes to the players, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, they're Maryville, right? But like,
yeah, exactly.
Which is collegiate, but I doubt they would dip into their prize winnings. I'd be surprised if they dipped into the prize winnings.
Hopefully most of that goes to the actual players themselves and, a little extra bonus. So Saints with their 2-2 record are currently in the lead for that $7,500. Yeah. I do wanted to mention as well before we move on then and, say goodbye to some of these players that we won't see for a while again, unless they get picked up. I think probably besides all the memery of like Magic, Mate Ball and Pummy and Boat and, one of the most funny moments to me anyway, this whole week was when they showed a stat card for Infected, and I guess they accidentally flipped around his first and his last name. So instead of Boston Fine, it said Fine Boston as his name.
I didn't see that.
That just cracked me up.
That's really funny.
I think actually it was the interview after they beat the Shock, so maybe I can find that. But I saved the screenshot because that was just legendary. So Boston Fine, Infected. But I think from this matchup as well, the last matchup of the week, when everyone was watching the USA trials, Doomed had a really good game. Like, if you just want to talk about like best performances from Contenders players this past weekend, I think that Doomed's Tracer was like really good. Had like big impact moments, big pulse bombs. He just whiffed one right there, so there you go. But I was impressed by Doomed, not only in this series but in the rest of the matches. So getting to know some of these Contenders players, it was pretty fun. All right. Unless you guys have anything else in Group A and D. Great, A and B. Let's move on to Group C and D, which we'll be playing this upcoming week. We talked a little bit about these two groups last week, but we've seen a week of gameplay at this point, so maybe we've changed our minds a little bit. Maybe we have a little bit of a better read. So Group C and Group D. I know that Custa is a little bit high here on like Twisted Minds. I was a little bit of high on Team Peps, but realistically speaking, do we think that any Contenders teams can like beat the Overwatch League teams in Group C and D here?
I think it really comes down to how realistic this Gladiators scrimbucks you want to take it. Of like, it makes sense. We've seen bits and pieces in the scrims that are leaked. I feel like Toronto and Houston should be able to clear, those teams. And as I said, I was high on Twisted Minds and Team Peps, basically under the assumption that the way that they want to play the game is going to catch other teams off guard. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I think there's potential. But they play a very strange style of the game. But after seeing how impressive these OWL teams can be on the Winston Tracer with just great Winston Tracer players, and when you look at, Houston Outlaws who are Fearless, I feel like that might be really hard for Twisted Minds to deal with, of just Fearless running around, and, Pelican on Tracer, who's looked much improved. But I think Team Peps making it over the Gladiators is not the craziest thing in the world right now, if you're buying into this scrimbucks. But from what we saw so far, I think our team should be fine. Even Washington Justice, I think, could be a sneaky chance to make it out.
I feel like we watched a different EU Pro-Am qualifier, because I was going to put all my bucks on Twisted Minds slapping people, because they have this kind of pieces of one tricks that are really, really good one tricks. LBBD's Farah was killing people. Oh, Josh's gonna have an aneurysm.
One tricks. Oh, dude.
It has some...
Finish your point.
Well, LBBD played almost exclusively Farah in that final. UB plays almost entirely Tracer from other teams. So I guess I'll just point out the two there, but obviously KSA and others don't apply to that. But LBBD's Farah, they put all of their resources into it, nanoing everything like that. And Twisted Minds, I feel kind of crushed Team Peps in that EMEA final just off of that. And although you might say it's a one-dimensional strategy, when I casted Contenders at you in previous seasons, I forgot the name of that one trick team, but it was off of Yazan and other people. Yazan is that Farah one trick over on that side, and they were crushing a lot of teams that, even though you bring out all the counters, your Diva, your hit scan, having a really good Farah is hard to counter, and I kind of want to give that dark horse to Twisted Minds, even though their group is probably going to be impossible to get out of with, how stacked it is. Twisted Minds over Team Peps IMO.
Yeah, I do want to I agree that Twisted Minds is better than Team Peps. Well, they actually beat them in the finals, right? But it's I just think Toronto and Houston are going to be dramatically harder to beat, right? So much harder to beat than potentially a weakened Gladiators and a Justice.
Saudi Arabia has an unbelievable amount of good projectile players. It's kind of crazy. I did see a screenshot. Oh man, where the fuck? I'm not sure when it was. I think it was on one of the last seasons, maybe season 36 of Overwatch 1, where Yazan had 8 accounts in top 10.
Yeah.
Shows a lot about the EU ladder, by the way. Jesus
Dude, how do you level those in quick play?
I'm not going to tell you how, but
Johnny, move along.
I'm not going to tell you how. We're going to move swiftly on. Being real though, you just can't. There's just no way you can run Echo Farah permanently against teams Outlaws.
Just got to win 2 maps, Jack. You just got to win 2 maps.
You just got to stay alive for more than 5 seconds, and maybe it's okay on the Echo Farah to do damage. I just don't see it working. Maybe it comes out of the gate and I'll have egg on my face, sure. But I just can't see a world where players like Hydron on fucking Toronto and Houston fucking Outlaws with Fearless on tank too. Dude, there's just no way these teams are going to be able to get away with playing one-dimensional comp.
But that's the thing. How many times have you scrimmed against the number? No, I would say LBBD's number 1 Farah, but a Farah of that caliber, you just don't have the practice against dealing with that. So that's the dark horse thing. I'm I don't know if people know how to deal with it.
1v1s. I would pay to see some fucking 1v1s of Farah's Echoes and shit like that against Overwatch League teams, because yes, Saudi Arabia has crazy good projectile players historically, but I just don't think you can play up to the level. I can't wait to be proven wrong. It'll be fucking crazy if they come out and just only play Farah, only play Echo, and just start dominating. But I just can't see them winning against Houston Outlaws or Toronto Defiant, or making it, NYXL, maybe they take a games there. But Red Bull Esports, maybe. But just the caliber of teams in the Overwatch League and that group, it's fucking tough when you have Toronto, Houston Outlaws. I just can't see it, because Mercy again as well, right? You need the fucking Mercy. That shit is punishable in high level play. Not so much in ranked. Shit pisses me off, but it's pretty punishable when you are in.
I'm kidding.
I don't fucking care who it is. It could be Scott Mercy for all I give a shit. Like it's not gonna be good, you know. Against
that's what we've always said. It's like, it's
coordination.
easy to counter. We have the right talent to counter it. Like this has been a storyline. It's pushing Contenders a lot too. Although it is Contenders, like we've had the Hydrons in Contenders before they made it to Owl, and even they struggled.
Yeah, and he would fucking dumpster fucking one trick.
No,
and question mark. I don't know.
There's no
Jack,
way.
you need to calm down. Yeah, think of 2019 Shanghai Dragons, right? Like that is what you
dumpster ball.
It's not about going back in time. It's about it is very difficult as a team to know how to play against a certain strategy when you've never practiced against it. Like none of these NA OWL teams are going to have any practice around how these guys play this Pharah Echo style, and it might just fall flat. But there is a chance that they show up and the teams don't know how to deal with it, like off the bat in such a short amount of time.
I'll give you a few percentage there, but I just can't.
I'll take it. Thank you.
Yeah, a few percentage.
Thanks, Custa.
Yeah, maybe you need the self-confidence of these modern-day Overwatch League pros to just get into the server and just style on them.
I mean, maybe,
but
yeah.
If I'm just like thinking as a former player, just like how would I prepare for this team? I'd be like shitting my pants and be like, "Fuck, what do we do?" And just like, "Oh, we'll play hit scan." I need to trust my hit scan player to just come out and just find the far in the sky all the time, and we need to dive on the Mercy all the time, and like we this is an unorthodox composition, like we don't know how to play against that. I definitely think it's real, like the not being able to prepare, and so you go into the server with like an idea, and then you have to execute on that idea perfectly. There's some upset potential there. I just don't know if Houston, Toronto are like the teams that like you can.
We also saw the Shock lose, so I'm just saying anything's possible in Pro-Am. We all thought of Shock not gonna go 0-2 on day one, so
yeah. Also a small little addition here. We tried to you guys weren't there, Jaws was there, but we tried to just like torture some knowledge out from Albert Ye during the watch party with Avast, and we asked how the Outlaws were doing. He said that the Gargoyle looking pretty good. That was all he said. That was the entire sentence. Gargoyle looking pretty good. So the Ramatra, I think, was what he said on broadcast. So Gargoyle, Ramatra, this upcoming week might look pretty interesting for the Houston Outlaws. I'm looking forward to see if we see that. That could be a lot of fun. So there you go. I think he even said like one of the top Ramatras. I'm just reiterating this sentence as we go, but it's fine. Gargoyle, Ramatra, look out for this upcoming week. Moving on to Group C, I wanted to have a little bit about a conversation about Group C here, because last week on the pod, I said that Team Peps was like my sort of like dark horse to make it out Group C. But after seeing so many teams have success with the Ramatra and even like Winston Kiriko, stuff like that this past week, don't you guys feel a little bit more comfortable about the Gladiators in this current meta?
I just don't buy the fucking the downers on him, to be honest. The doubters, I'm so
you don't buy the
Scrimbox.
The Scrimbox rumors, the Twitter accounts with like 200 followers.
Yeah, it's some of the. To be fair, this off season I think has been rumor fucking city. I feel like there's more rumors this. Yeah, I think there's more rumors this year than there's ever been. But people who are super
totally
down
not because people who run like big podcasts like regurgitate the rumors and actually like spread them and popularize it.
Hey, let's not do rumors this off season. And then Johnny's like, anyway, so there were rumors that the NY. It's like, it's not us, not our fault. No, definitely not. I mean, we are mainly the problem, I'd say. But
I am the problem. I know.
What did you say before
Gladiators.
that? Gladiators are good. They're good. They're probably fucking good. I can't imagine they're going to be that fucking bad. Also, between, I guess, those tweets coming out and the scrims that were happening and now, I would say they've probably fucking improved. Like, there are a lot of good fucking name value on that team. You still have fucking Kevster. Like,
Kevster.
You just can't say this team is going to be bad. You just can't. It's maybe Boston are going to be better, and I personally, because I'm super high on Boston, would put Boston over Gladiators right now. But I just think it's just like crack being smoked. I have been this whole time.
All right,
Jack's off the goop.
I've been, dude. What are you saying? This team, Boston looks fucking wicked.
Off of what? Off of what? Okay, tell me what. What makes Boston look good? Are you just looking? Are you just going to look at the number of trophies they have and be like, "Oh, look at how great this team is. This baby will get me really far." Dude, just because something was good in the past doesn't mean it's going to be great now, Jack.
Twilight, Izzyaki, Lee J. Gone, Twilight. It's been around since Apex Season 1.
Jack, can I just get a quick vibe check on where the Shanghai Dragons and the Toronto Defiant finished last year on the players? Those teams
don't care. Flatters on tank. Don't mind. Doesn't matter now.
What are you talking about?
Well, you know, today now's the present. We're not in the past. We're not talking about the past. We're talking about the very present. Look, their team looks.
You might be right. As I said, Boston's my number one to make it out of this group. I agree, but I think just this blanket statement that this team is just going to be exceptional and living up to their previous highs is.
What is it?
Dumb. You can say you can.
We can't.
Oh, that was the word I
thought of a word, but it wasn't the right word, so I panicked and threw fair out there. Fuck you, Jack. There's more of the story.
Yeah. Well, you guys said something so funny that I slammed my table a little bit and my Go XLR popped out. So if anything scuffed from this point on in the podcast, then you know why. Yeah. Anyway. Some people reported that during the Team USA scrims that the best tanks were, I think, Kalush and Super, something like that. So, you know, I don't know if you want to read into that too much, but we'll see how this Gladiators team perform and how they're actually looking. You know, they could also totally be one of these teams that, like, we have no idea, like, what their roles are going to be. They had that leaked scrim where they got pounded, and I think they had Kevster on Sojourner and something like that, and Yaki was playing the Tracer. They could be like exactly like the Shock, where like they're just trialing their members on different roles, and like Bobble was in the mix and stuff like that, and they're just figuring it out, and that's going to lead to some ups and downs. So not going to read into that scrim at all. I'm instead going to read into rumors by Reddit comments with like 5 upvotes because that's what I do. But anyway, I think Gladius will make it out of the group. It's probably as the second team here behind Boston Uprising. So all the rumors for nothing. I still think the Gladiators are fine here, given the sheer amount of talent they have. Oh, well, this episode is going crazy fast. I'm like having a nervous breakdown because we're not at like the 2 hour 40 mark at this point. Florida Mayhem versus London Spitfire, guys. In 2 weeks' time, based on what we saw in week 1, who do you think makes it? Florida Mayhem versus London Spitfire?
Well, hang on. We didn't talk about Team Peps and fucking Justice and Wade.
Oh, go ahead. Yo, drop the Peps intel. We need to prolong this podcast.
The Peps intel? I go, fuck all. I only got a British player. That's all for me. I mean, look, Wisp has 2 English players. That might be a problem. Historically, that has been a problem. We'll see how that ends up going. But I have no information on Peps. A lot of them have been around for a long fucking time, though, remember. Like, let me fucking see the roster. Because Naga's been in the league before. Was Crandall? Because I cast Crandall and Molfig like a century ago. Kalex has been in the league. Yeah, so, it's Uprising Academy that Crandall was on, not like OG Uprising. Then Molfig was on the Spitfire. A lot of history on that team. I'm not sure if they're going to be again kind of cracked, and it's definitely a harder group to get out of than what it seems like. It seems like because Group D is pretty hard to get out too, because trying to find Outlaws. And I don't know how they'll match up. I mean, Washington Justice. Does anybody else think they're going to take down the Washington Justice? I think this could be at least the lower half, which unfortunately doesn't mean anything. The bottom 3 teams could potentially take down the Washington Justice, and I think them and Wisp have a decent chance of going even against each other.
Maybe I'm a hater, but I don't know how you look at this roster, this Washington Justice, and you're like, oh yeah, they'll start off the season seamlessly, very smooth, no problems at all.
Yeah.
I want to see it before I believe it.
Okay, here's my counterpoint to that is if Alpha U plays Tracer, Flora plays like a Cassidy, Ben Best shows over his Winston, which is apparently improved. FD God gets to play Lucio and Teru gets to play Kiriko. Pretty solid. They can also play the Ramacha Brawl pretty short. Like Ben Best can even play the Reinhardt, go back to his roots, and I think this team will be good. I think they will be fine in this meta right now. And I don't think they'll lose to either of the Contenders teams unless the Team Peps like Farah style beats what Washington tries to play.
That is the take. That is the common sense take. But as the speculator, the Liquipedia speculator, I have concerns. I am sensing something in the air. Custa. There's just like an odor of this team. There's just something that I don't know if they passed my smell test, and I don't know how you want to rate my nose. But
is it because of the last Washington Justice? Is it the name that's just sort of hurting you, Johnny?
No, I think it's just like I think it's just because a lot of these players are coming into this situation, and I don't know how to do, especially like Alpha and Flora. Like Alpha comes in from like a Hangzhou Spark team from last season. Flora was part of the New York Excelsior last week. Like very different from being part of a Washington Justice roster where you have Ben Best as your main tank and FD God as your Lucio, and now you have to be on the same page. And Tiru, who used to be a damage player just like a year ago, and now he's like a flex support player after he had one good Kiriko. Okay, he played Kiriko well in the playoffs, but like
wait, he was in Contenders last year as well, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I believe so.
Before he got
actually.
signed, yeah.
But still, like I just want to see it first. Can I just see it first before I like commit? And I'm like, yeah, totally, I buy into the Washington
I think
Justice,
you're allowed to say that, Johnny. I mean, that's what kind of this tournament, this like pre-season tournament is for. Taste testing. Taste before you buy, you know. Try before you buy.
Like Alpha E is the only one I'm high on this team.
Yeah, I think
agreed.
That's fair.
Alpha is sick. Yeah,
Alpha is sick.
And if you need someone to, I didn't say it. This is not me, so don't get mad at me. But I tweeted out, this group exists, and our group got called the easiest. So, some shade being thrown here by Ice as well, calling this the easiest group. So, we'll see. We'll see if there's anything to it. Maybe them is scrimming some of these teams. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah. Guys, I'm lost for words. I don't know where to go.
How's it going, Johnny? How's it going, Johnny?
I don't know where to go. I'm
what the fuck? Why is there a monkey in the bath, bro? What's going on?
I don't know.
Yeah, what the hell?
We're out of the script.
Yo, he's chilling.
Huh?
Yeah, I just had to pull up. I thought it was a pretty good video.
16 hours a day.
Kuffa.
That does have some good content.
Kuffa tweets out, ending on a high 2-1 versus Trick Room. Kinda trolled with the Ram comp swap on Hollywood. Was a really enjoyable tournament. So many super close matches. Thank you for the support. We'll be back for NA Contenders. Yeah, as you said, Kuffa, standout player.
Is that monkey iced out too? Holy shit, he's got a fucking ice too. God damn.
Iced out? What does that mean?
He has jewelry.
True. Iced out, okay. I learn something new every day.
There's the translation directly from Zoomer to normal speak.
Wow, this has been a great episode so far.
Yeah, it's been a great episode. 1 hour 26 mark. I can't remember the last time we had an episode that was less than 2 hours, but we wanted to skip the team previews this time around. We'll have some more information about teams and how good they are next week, so we'll get back on the team previews train. But besides that, guys, I didn't watch the Team USA trials, so I don't have anything to say about that.
Are we not talking about Group D?
Did we talk about Group
Johnny
D? I guess we didn't really.
Johnny, how many edibles
have you mines, and that's it.
What do you mean?
Yeah,
well, I feel like
we talked about fucking Redbird.
We talked about Twisted Minds. We were like, Houston and Toronto will make it out. Do you want to talk about New York Excelsior?
I would love to talk about New York Excelsior. I would love to talk about New York Excelsior.
There you go. Let fucking Scott go.
Okay.
Yeah. They'll be all right.
All right. Anyway, you obviously super in the trials. Or?
Well, okay, wait. I don't really want to talk about New York Excelsior. I'm curious to see how New York Excelsior is going to be, because there's a lot of speculation around this roster and how it makes negative sense, and that they don't have a translator, even though they have a bunch of Korean players, but they've also have 4 support players, which is also a questionable choice. So, it'll be our first look. We've seen some leaked scrims of this team. I don't expect them to be able to make it out of groups. I think Houston and Toronto is probably one of the strongest groups. Maybe you could have made an argument for like Atlanta Shock, but Florida Shock group, but Shock ended up being bad. So I think this will be difficult for anyone to make it out. If you can go back a little bit there, Johnny, real quick. Back to the groups. Yeah, I want to see the group. Twisted Minds will be excited, but Redbird as well. Like, I think Redbird has a bunch of players that I think would love the opportunity to show themselves. Personally, I think there's a world in which NYXL finishes last, because this is a pretty good team.
God.
I will say no one is talking about Redbird.
Yeah, like, and that's sort of, I think people are underestimating, especially when you got Giga Chad Gig at the front line of this as well. Good. And like, I think this will be a great brawl team. We saw how effective that composition is. You know, they should be able to play the dive. I think this team will be good. I think they'll struggle to get out of groups just because of the quality. I think they will lose just the head-to-head matchup against Toronto and Houston. But I think Redbird's an exciting team you should keep your eyes on because there's a couple of players that might impress you.
Jen, what do you think about Redbird? On the spot. No.
There's good. I'm sticking to the good stuff. I really like Vision. Cassidy popped off for sure. Grathan's a long-standing Contenders player and is flexing to different things. The Gig hype, he's very aggressive. Let's call it that. Very, very aggressive. If the supports can keep up, maybe that works, but I don't think just the boneheaded W key is gonna really work out in an Owl group. So my highlight for Redbirds is more about the DPS working around that. And I'm just not super high on Redbirds. I'm more high on Twisted Minds, if I had to be honest on that.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I will say, actually, one thing about New York Excelsior before we move on or something. Lep was actually invited to the closed trials for the Team USA. And I mean, that's a pretty decent honor there. Like, if you actually make it to like the final top 12, or I mean, I guess it's more like top 18 or whatever. And Lep was one of the main support players. I think that speaks volumes to like how players and coaches like rate him and his play as well. So he's actually competing for a Team USA World Cup slot against OG. I think those are the two main supports. I don't know if there's more, but yeah. So I mean, don't sleep on Lep just because he got benched by Jake like 2 years ago or something like that. Not as rude. But yeah, there you have it. Group C and Group D moving into week 2 of the Pro-Am, and we'll see how it goes. I think, as we said, Boston Uprising, LA Gladiators clear favorites in Group C in my mind, and then Group D, Houston, Toronto. Jaws is nodding, so I think he agrees with me.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
yes.
There you go. Unless you want to talk about Contenders, Custa. I saw you watch the O2 Blast reverse sweep.
Nah, that's fine.
Okay.
It was a cool match though. If you guys like, you know, it was a cool match, but there's so much like I think Pro-Am is more interesting. But that if you want to watch some Korean Contenders and see what's going on out there, there's a bunch of really good teams that are playing in Contenders. There was a crazy reverse sweep that happened on stage in a LAN. Go check it out.
Yeah. Someone will be upset because I spoiled the Contenders Korea reverse sweep there. I don't know how many.
That was like 2 weeks ago. If you're upset about that,
wait, was it 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, around that. I as you said, you brought it up, and I'm like, I watched that like 10 days ago or something like that. And I was like, oh, that's
it was a long time ago.
It was a couple of weeks ago, I think, at this point.
I watched it on stream, and I never watched it.
Wait, it's March 27.
Yeah, when it happened.
It was like at least a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks. Yeah, it was before Pro-Am, no?
Yeah,
March 22nd. Yeah, so I guess it was last week.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
No, there's no way.
Wait, what do you mean 2 weeks ago? That was 5 days ago.
Yeah.
It feels like it, bro.
Give or take a few weeks.
All
give or take.
Yeah, so there you go. Not like anyone was sleeping on Top Dragon anyway, but there you go. Check out Korean Contenders if you got the time zone, because I certainly don't. Anyway, I don't think there was any news either. I tried to look through, but I can't recall there being any news this past week. So I guess we'll just get into to Bren's Player of the Week and call it a day. I don't think we forgot anything. Someone in the comment section is going to be like...
We want to talk about US trials?
I didn't watch it.
I have not watched them. If you want to hit them, Jack.
Yeah, dude, the fucking trials went hard. There was some fucking sick games. Super's still very good at the game. Who's surprised? He plays ranked majority of his life, like at least 18 hours a fucking day. He's still grinding. And he every single year, he's good enough to get back in the league. Like, no doubt about it. He definitely looked like the best tank in there. Kalush looked really good too. Dante had a little bit of a rough time. I was kind of surprised about, but right now you can't really play Doom that well. And like his other heroes, just especially like the main tank side of things. Obviously, they were picking comps. So it was like, okay, so you're going to run Doom on this map. You're going to run Rein and you're going to run, so it was, you can't exactly kind of flex up mid game, but Super was like really good. Hydron had a very good game. Like there are a lot of big plays in the trials. It's definitely worth going back and watching, but Super is the one that stood out to me. And I don't know if that's because of name value or anything, but like I was like, damn, he's kind of fucking on the right. Like, he was different a lot of the time. Him and Kaluja, I'd say, standout tanks right now.
Super good at Rein. More at 10.
Yeah, who'd have thought, right? Who'd have fucking thought?
Yeah, but like, yeah, he's a 2-time champion. He's one of the best tanks to ever touch the game. So, and like, it's not like he's also one of those players who hasn't been playing. He's still playing ranked every day. He's still putting in a lot of work. If anything, he'd probably have more diversity than he's ever had because he just plays everything in ranked. So, yeah, I'm curious to see who's going to come out of these US trials when we start to see the other teams. I'm looking forward to other countries, seeing what everyone else is producing as well. Like Team Korea, how seriously are they taking it? I haven't heard anything about Team Korea or what's going on with their trials or anything like that.
Rush is head coach, right?
I can't remember exactly. So. Yeah, I think he got it.
Am I trolling? I'm pretty sure Rush is head coach.
I'm pretty sure
Rush is head coach, there is no way they're trolling. There is no way.
And that's it. It comes down to if they're going to take it seriously. The last World Cup that we had where Korea didn't win it was because they did not put a great team forward in comparison to what players were available, and everyone just wanted a break. This is the first World Cup coming back. I'm pretty sure everyone wants to try. Everyone wants to win. So I think Korea's going to have their best foot forward. And I genuinely think Team USA, Team China, and Team Korea all have a chance, depending on the team they put forward.
Well, rip Canada. We're
sorry,
lost
Canada.
All our talent.
You had to bring back
we are content creators, baby. We'll get the cloud team going. Okay.
Yeah.
We always bring in the sponsors, so that we'll make money. We're just not gonna go far. Okay.
Well, wait, didn't you come like third one of the years as well? Like, was that 2018?
Good one time.
XQC magnitude.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Or something.
We had talent once.
There's some all right players. What? Because I mean, you got some all right players for the Canada team. Yeah, I mean, you got Falls as your tank, Crimzo, Seeker, Cal,
Seeker.
Is Cal
Magic 8-Ball. The backline of Magic 8-Ball, Crimzo, and
I didn't know that.
Okay.
They'll make top 8, right? Like I think they'll make top 8 and they'll make the land for sure.
Yeah.
But I think that they're going to beat these other 3 teams that I talked about.
Okay, but the
real Magic 8-Ball.
The real YouTube video generator. How good would Team Canada be with XQC in it?
Terrible. When was the last time he played Overwatch?
I don't know. When Overwatch 2 released for a week or something.
Yeah.
And he went to play like chess or something. I don't know what they're doing. But yeah, they at least got a decent backline and they got Seeker. So there we go. Team Canada, they're not out of it yet, Jen. Believe. Okay.
We believe.
Yeah. Sweden's got Kevster and Sparker, so I'm looking forward to that. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah, you guys.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
we got Cuffer and Punk.
Yeah, we got Zergy, baby. Trackball god. He's a beast on trackball. We win.
Yeah. All right. Maybe Custa will make a return. I don't know what your plans are, Custa. Maybe you'll play main support for that team or something.
Well, yeah, we would be well and truly doomed. We'll get Korea in the first round again, and then just have a good time after that.
Yeah.
Did you guys try out for committee?
No. I did not.
For me, the team, I got fucked.
I don't know. For me, this is such a good opportunity for everyone to just come to BlizzCon and like experience it firsthand. Like all you got to do is make top 16. So I like giving that opportunity to other people and like hyping them up. So I'm also hoping to work that. I think it's always looked like a fun event to work ever since 2018, 2019. So I'm hoping to cast that some of the games.
I don't know how you felt about your decision about that Costa too, but I was just like, this is just straight up unfair to like the Swedish players. I felt like I could have applied for like GM or coach or something, but I have a 9-hour time zone difference, and also I feel like the Swedish team is cooking in the European contender scene anyway, so like it's not like they need me, so they're fine.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
You get paid to be on the committee?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
Because that was the thing. I was like, oh, sounds like a lot of work.
I think in the previous World Cups, I think you got paid like a little bit of money to be like a player and a part of the committee. But it's more of the full expenses paid to BlizzCon, which is like really what you're selling.
Yeah. So I have full faith in my Swedish comrades that they'll put together a good team and have a good committee and coach, and I'll see them when they eventually qualify for BlizzCon because it's locked in. Let's go. Anyway, Brent's player of the week for this very short episode here. Who's making the cut? Who's making the cut this week? Who are we crowning? We got tons of Contenders players we can pick from.
Bro, it's easy.
It's easy.
Boat the goat. Put in the fucking 180 post bomb onto proper. Yeah, that's easy. It's either that or Magic 8-Ball for hashtag
mind the gap tweet. The
just mind the gap. Legend. And he gives the hello goodbye. Dude, look at this pulse. Actually, fucking sick pulse. Look at the flick. Ready? Ready? Okay.
Oh, yeah, I'm ready for it.
Oh, boom. Look how fucking sick that flick is.
I'll give it to him. I'll give it to him.
Pretty fucking wicked.
For the bants, the pick, I'm down.
Hell yeah.
Vote the GOAT.
Vote the GOAT.
I will also say there's something intimidating about this dog that Boat has. I guess this is
that dog
their
will
dog,
fuck you up.
but it is an intimidating dog. Like this dog is like frightening. If Boat's tweeting, like when Boat tweeted here, he tweeted something, I don't know what it was, but it was just like intimidating. Like, oh shit. But the dog, I'm respecting the dog, is what I'm saying.
But here's the thing: this dog looks ferocious because it's in a small frame. This dog is definitely like 2 foot big. It's tiny, probably, it's tiny and dog, just like yaps at you the entire time. But hey,
it looks like a very confident dog. Like it doesn't fuck around. This dog doesn't fuck around. Yeah. It's a good dog.
Trick Room came up with some really funny memes during the Shock series, whether it was like the comparing them to Prop. There was like a player's stat card head to head with like Proper and that other guy.
I was going into the match as well, right? Like before the match happened.
And then there was like the Magic 8-Ball versus Vindime with like the bigger Elden Ring boss looking thing. They came out with some really good shit during that match.
Yeah, these guys are tweeting more than any
social team is sick.
Yeah. They're tweeting more than the
social team on the Valiant. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Was it them that hit him with the 0-2?
Yeah, it was them who hit them with the 0-2 blast.
Palmy, there you go. Palmy versus Proper. Open Division champion? Yeah, Proper. What you got to say about that, huh?
Yeah,
what you got to say about that, huh, kid? Owned.
Such a
Sombra of St. Louis? Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Proper can't say that. We can't say it's the Sombra of St. Louis.
It's ridiculous. But they made a name for themselves. And I think we're going to see these players in the future as well. So they're doing a good job. There we go. Boat, congratulations. You're Bren's player of the week. Dude, if we told Bren that Boat got player of the week, he'd be like, who? But it'd be amazing. What? Who's Boat? But yeah. There you go, Boat. Congratulations. Boat the GOAT. All right. I think that does it for Plat Chat episode 171. It was an absolute pleasure, crew. Thank you for jumping on, Jen.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was fun.
All right.
Yeah.
Custa, are you while this episode premieres, you're gonna be streaming stuff like that? People can go.
Yeah, I should be streaming while this is premiering. So after you finish this video, come give your Twitch Prime subscription to
twitch.tv/JawsCast.
No, don't listen to him. Don't listen to him.
JawsCast.
No.
Jaws need every sub he can get, so I recommend go there. Drop your Twitch.
Damn, dude.
And also knowing Custa and the content he puts out these days, he'll do like a review of the Plat Chat episode and then like talk about it for like 2 podcasts.
Dude, reaction
easiest content of my life. I'm just gonna rewatch it while it's premiering, and then they can come from the premiere to come see me watching it. There you go.
That's pretty legendary.
All right. So both of y'all promoted your Twitch link. So Jen, what's your Twitch? I know you're streaming these days too.
Oh yeah, Lemonkiwi. So that's it.
Twitch.tv Lemonkiwi. There you go. All right.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, everyone, for Plat Chat episode 171. We'll see you next week for recapping week 2, doing a preview of the Pro Am playoffs, and we'll add on a few team previews to the episode to make sure it's 4 hours long. All right. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye.